Hi, Michelle here. In today's video, I thought that I would take a little bit of a change, and I've been posting videos that have been showing you the easier side of Hoyas, the side that maybe guide you to what you may want to try. But in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about 5 of my most difficult Hoyas. These are 5 of the Hoyas that cause me the most trouble, that do not grow for me. I'll go ahead and I have 5 of them and a bonus one. So I will go ahead and go over the Hoyas with you. That was weird. I'll go ahead and go over the Hoyas with you, and then we can go ahead and talk. If you like today's video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. That really helps let me know where I'm going with my channel. If you would like to see more plant-related content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation or any questions you'd like to ask, please put them in the comment section below. I do like to interact with my comment section, so I promise I will get back to you. And now on with the first Hoyas. They're actually over here. So let's get to the first one. And the first one is probably the biggest stinker of them all. And this is the Hoya phuwauaensis. This Hoya, I will say, had flat mites to begin with, and that is a root of very many evils with this plant. I had this plant. It looks like it has some of that stem issue. If you look down into the pot where this stem is, you can see it's real dark. It does have some new growth under there, if you can see it, real tiny new growth right there. It has a new leaf right here, and it's very shiny feeling. It's very slick feeling, as opposed to these feel very thick and cardboardy. These don't feel so cardboardy. They're very thick, but they feel more slick than anything. This tells me this is a new leaf, but it's all warped, as you can see. It's a warped leaf. It doesn't look attractive. I couldn't sell it if I wanted to. This leaf feels kind of pubescent on top. So these leaves that came off this stem are all new. It does have this new growth point right here. But the rest of it is pretty much flat mite, stored, flat mite, paused. This is what flat mites do. They leave these little growth points that go off into nowhere. Here's another growth point that goes off into nowhere, doesn't start. It stops, but doesn't start again. I re-rooted this and stuck this in this pot again a long time ago, and there are no roots in this pot. There are no roots sticking outside of this pot. Maybe, no, there are. This has been in this pot for maybe 6 months. It should have roots on the outside of this pot. Oh, it does have a new leaf though right there. So I will say that it does have something good going on. But the growth is just, it's not doing very well. It's not something I can cut off and restart again. And in the case of this cutting right here and this cutting right here, the stem looks like it's dying. I said it in my last video, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, but Miro from Basie Plants first talked about, and this is something I've personally noticed myself, the stem dying inside a pond with the roots still intact and the plant still kind of growing. But if you notice, this leaf is yellowing right here. See if I can get, this leaf is starting to yellow. So that means it's going to fall off. That will be something I guess I'll unpot. I'll try to, I'll try to wait until this leaf matures. But we'll just see. I mean, look at this leaf. This is basically like half a leaf right here. So the first Hoya that is extremely difficult for me to grow is the phuwauaensis. The second plant that is really hard for me to grow, so difficult for me to grow, is the Carnosa Nova Ghost. And actually, this Nova Ghost that you see, these are cuttings that my daughter gave me because my Nova Ghost died. So that tells you how difficult I consider it to be. But this is my daughter's Nova Ghost. They are 2 cuttings. It does have a growth point with 2 new leaves right there. So that's really exciting. But I say that this plant is incredibly difficult for me because I've had this plant for almost a year. The first one I had for, about a year, and the stem rotted. It never rooted. I tried water. I tried perlite. I tried pon. Nothing worked for me. My daughter graciously gave me these cuttings of her plant, which is huge. And she had rooted these in water. I transferred these to tree fern fiber, which is super dry. I gotta water it. But it's doing really good now. But I try to ignore this as much as possible so that I don't do anything to set it on the course to disaster. But it's well rooted. I can see the roots. You can see this gigantic root right here. So I think these, now that it's giving me my first new growth on a Nova Ghost, that's pretty exciting for me. So my second Hoya that is really difficult to grow, so difficult I killed one, and this is the second one, is the Carnosa Nova Ghost. The third Hoya that I consider very difficult is the deykeae. And I consider it difficult because if you can see, it's in a water propagation jar right now. I have some spotting issues. It looks like maybe some edema. These leaves are dehydrated. The deykeae is one of the most troublesome, sensitive Hoyas that I have come across. This is not the first time I've had to reroot this plant. This is not the second time I've had to reroot this plant. This is try number 3. I guess it's a good thing because that means that for the third time I've been able to get this to regrow and come back, and it does, and it comes back larger than ever. But as you can see, I'm dealing with these tiny little leaves, and I don't want to have to deal with tiny little leaves. I want big, nice, large leaves. So I'm hoping that when these cuttings root this time, that the leaves will grow larger, and it will be the last time I have to root something. These leaves are super, super, super dry. See, this reminds me, has anyone ever told you, do the taco test? When your Hoya is flimsy enough to bend like a taco, that means it's time to water, okay? Did you notice how I bent it like a taco? You do not want to wait until your plant is so dry it bends to the taco test, even if it just barely bends. Hoya leaves can hold a lot of water. They're very succulent. By the time they get down to the dehydration level that they can bend, that's just too far to take it. I won't say it's impossible because I do believe that I can revive this plant from this stage, but it's very difficult to revive a Hoya that is in the fold in half dehydration stage. So if you take anything from this video, please water your Hoyas before they get to the bendable stage. So this is my deykeae, and I've lost 3 leaves so far, but one of my cuttings has started to root, and so I am quite excited. It will probably take about 2 weeks or so for these to start to plump up again and start to fill out and start to uh, put on roots. So I'll just start over again. And when this is done, I'll put it back in a self-watering pot and we'll start the cycle over again. And hopefully I can get this on a trellis and get this growing again and hopefully not rot the roots, not overwater it, get too much water on the roots in the self-watering pot, not make that mistake again, and go from there. So the next plant that is a very difficult plant for me to take care of is the deykeae. Another Hoya that's very difficult for me to take care of, and I know that I'm not alone in this, is the Hoya Nicholsoniae New Guinea ghost. And I have actually rotted the roots on this one twice. Let's see, the roots now, it's got a beautiful root right here. And it's got beautiful roots. See, look at that healthy, lovely white root. There's a healthy root there. It's a healthy root there. I mean, there's healthy roots here. So the plant has got healthy roots now, but at one time it did not. And so the plant got very dehydrated. And this is a very thin leaf Hoya anyway. So when it gets droopy, it's hard to know when this plant is either happy or it's flimsy and really dehydrated, because these leaves are always kind of, soft. But this is the plant. This is the back. It has kind of this main growth point right here. And it's not really one that you can trellis so much. So I make do with what I can. But the reason I put this on the most difficult list is because this thing does rot really easy. If you get it a little bit too wet, you fill up this pot a little too much, boom, it's rotted. The roots rot like that. This does not offer you the opportunity to mess up and have a do-over. This just does not do it. The interesting thing is how it is potted. There are roots that are sticking up inside the pot because it was so overgrown with roots that they're sticking up out of the pot. What I'll probably do now is I'll probably take it and put it in a 5-inch pot. That's what it needs to have happen. I have a 5-inch self-watering pot now, so I think I'll be able to go ahead and put it in. But I'll have to be very careful though, not to disturb the roots too much. The 5th Hoya that I feel is one of my most difficult Hoyas is the New Guinea ghost. Did I say that was number 5? If I said that was number 5, that was actually number 4. Because the number 5th one is actually this one. And this is the endauensis. And I say that this endauensis right here, is one of my most difficult, if not the most difficult. I will quote my friend Tabitha, who said, "This Hoya will grow for you very well if you can get it to root." And that's pretty much been right on point. I had this Hoya and it was on a trellis, and then I overwatered it. I have tried and tried and tried and tried and tried to reroot this plant, so much so that I ended up just throwing it back in a pot and just said, you will either adapt or, die trying. And I'm happy to say that it has chosen to adapt. And after literally like 7 or 8 months, it has produced some new growth. It has new growth right here. Sorry. It has a new stem right there with some new leaves. So it's starting to grow. I'm very happy about that. I like this Hoya. I think it's really cute. It's a dupe for the, I'm going to put the name for what it's a dupe for. It starts with a K. But it's a really cool plant. It's supposed to be easier than the other one, but I feel that it's much harder. It's got the ruffled edges. You can't beat that. I haven't really had any pest issues with this. I didn't have root mealies affected, just the root rot. So once and there is a new growth point right there. So the last plant that I think is one of my most difficult, if not the most difficult Hoya in my collection to grow, is the endauensis. I told you I had a bonus Hoya, and I do. It is my bag Hoya. No, I'm just joking. This is my undulata. And it's in a bag because I'll tell you a story. I gotta take this out carefully. I was working on my undulata in a video. I'll link it up here. And I noticed that the roots look bad. And then I always check the stem when I'm cutting roots to make sure that the stem is still good. And I was cutting the stem on this, and it wasn't bleeding sap. So I cut and cut and cut, and I noticed the stem was dead the whole way up. So I cut and cut and cut, and I had to eventually, over about 3 days, I had to actually sacrifice about 8 leaves. And now I have this top cutting. So anyway, this is the cutting that's left. It's got some roots growing now, mostly on upper cuttings. See if I can't get you to see that a little more. Maybe turn it upside down. But if you can zoom in and see, that node is still dying a little bit. See how it's dead at the end? I don't know if I should trim that or if I should leave that, because that is right up against the leaf. I'm going to leave it, but it has grown a few little roots. So this is the only way that I can reasonably find to get this plant to root. Okay, went ahead and got that put back in the bag, and I got to make sure it's settled down deep in the moss, so that way the whole stem has an opportunity to root, because that's going to be what it needs. So those were my 5 Hoyas that are my most difficult to grow, and a bonus one that is not just not growing, it's not rooting. I hope that I showed you some plants that maybe you can say, hey, I have troubles with that one too, and I don't feel so bad no more. Or you say, hey, that one's an easy one for me, and you can come in the comment section and give me advice on how to grow it easier, better, faster. So either way, it's a win-win. I really hope that you enjoy spending some time with me today. And until next time, I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye.